Now coming to the chapter pensions, how do questions come from this area? Again, as MCQs. Rarely does it get tested in the section B area, but section C area, it can come up as a small adjustment. Usually, sometimes it also comes up as a theory question. Okay. Now, one important aspect of this chapter is something called as the annual allowance. All right. Now, what are the two types of pension schemes? There is the occupational pension scheme. Okay. There is the occupational pension scheme, and then there is the personal pension scheme. These are the two types of personal pension scheme. What are each of these? If you have an idea, occupational pension scheme is a pension fund which you are doing with your company, as in your company's pension fund. I mean, it is in the name of a company and it is your pension fund. You're in your name, but it is provided by the company. And personal pension scheme is something you take on your own personal fund with any financial institution. Okay. Now, when you do a pension fund, how is it relevant from the tax point of view? We will get some tax relief on the lower of two amounts: gross gross pension contribution and the maximum annual amount. The lower of these both amounts, we'll get a tax relief on the lower of these both amount. Maximum annual amount is again the higher of two amounts, 3,600 and 100% of relevant earnings. Now, what are the relevant earnings? You should have an idea about this. What are the relevant earnings that we actually are studying about? Relevant earnings means employment income. Yes, employment income, trading income, and FHL profits, FHL income. All these are your relevant earnings. So the higher of both of this is the maximum annual amount, and the tax relief is available based on the lower of these both amounts. Okay. Now, how do you get tax relief when it comes to personal pension scheme? How do you get tax relief? You extend your basic and your higher rate band. So extend the basic rate band and higher rate band by the gross PPC amount. Same like you gifted, gross PPC amount. That is the only treatment. Nothing is happening in the main format. What about occupational pension scheme? So into your fund, you contribute as well as your employer contributes. So employee contributions are an allowable deduction. Okay, they are an allowable deduction from your employment income. The employer contributions are an exempt benefit. Okay, they are an exempt benefit. All right, they are an exempt benefit. Your occupational pension scheme. This is what is personal pension scheme and occupational pension scheme. Okay, the methods must be very much clear to you with regards to obtaining tax relief. Annual allowance, very important concept. First of all, let's try to understand what is the meaning of annual allowance. What is the meaning of annual allowance? Annual allowance is like this: you get tax relief. Yeah, yes, that is if you are doing a contribution to occupational pension scheme, you will get a tax relief. You'll reduce it from your employment income, you get tax relief. Now the problem is the taxman always makes sure that you will not get so much of a relief. So if your tax relief, if the amount of your tax relief is greater than 40,000, then there will be a tax charge. That 40,000 amount is called the annual allowance. Up to 40,000, no tax amount. See, the thing is, even if your tax relief is 60 or 70, you'll get the relief, but you will have to pay tax charge on the amount excess of annual allowance. That is the meaning of annual allowance. I hope it's clear. Is it clear to you? Okay. You will get tax relief. If you do a personal pension contribution, you will get tax relief. If you do occupational pension scheme, you will get tax relief. But if the tax relief is greater than the annual allowance amount, there will be a tax charge also. Okay. So AA reduces the amount every year is 40,000. Annual allowance reduces if your adjusted income exceeds one amount. What amount is that? 240,000. Okay. If your adjusted income exceeds 40,000, that means you're actually going to have a tax. I mean, you're actually going to, your annual allowance keeps reducing. Okay, that is, let's say your adjusted income. By the way, what is adjusted income? Adjusted income is net income plus employee contributions to occupational pension scheme plus employer contribution to occupational pension scheme. So if AI is greater, so let's see, if let's say AI is 250,000. So how much is the annual allowance? Annual allowance will be equal to, same like your personal allowance calculation, 40,000 minus 250,000 minus 240,000 divided by 2. which is 35, yes, 35,000. Your annual allowance will be 35,000. An individual can carry forward AA up to 3 years. That is, we can use the unused AA from the previous 3 years. Now remember, if your AI exceeds a particular amount, okay, if your AI exceeds a particular amount, if your AI, so let's compare this with personal allowance and annual allowance. So personal allowance amount is 12,500, annual allowance amount is 40,000. If you're in the case of personal allowance, if ANI is greater than 100,000, your personal allowance starts reducing. In annual allowance, if your AI is greater than 240,000, your annual allowance starts reducing. And in the case of personal allowance, if your adjusted net income reaches 125 or greater than that, what is your personal allowance? 0. In the case of annual allowance, if your AI is greater, is actually greater than or equal to 3,112,000, your AA is at 4,000. Okay, your AA is at 4,000. Okay, your AA is at 4,000. This is with regards to tapering the annual allowance. So very important points. What is annual allowance? What is annual allowance tax charge? I'm going to tell you 2 case questions which you need to practice properly. If you are very thorough with this, it's okay. But if to see whether you're good with this aspect, I'm going to tell you 2 case questions.